From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hi guys, it's really great to have you here. My name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of this show. This is the Badass Counseling Show. We have our voices ringing throughout the world, we have discovered. We have listeners all around the world, and we are honored to be able to bring you something that we hope helps your life. The we in this is our extremely intelligent and creative KC, who resides over in the booth. She has her own little sort of house over there. And then Rob the Rocket sitting right next to me, who brings in the technical wizardry and creativity using gadgetry. Rob.
Yes, I do.
How are you today, young fella?
I'm fine. I like lightning rounds. They're like thunder and lightning. You're so insightful, it's frightening. I think I better knock on wood. Go.
God bless you. And we're starting right off with Brooke on TikTok. How do you feel about paid peer-to-peer coaches? I feel so paid peer-to-peer. So two people in roughly the same set of circumstances, and one of them is paying the other to coach them. I am all in favor of it if and only if, for those of you who have taken logic, if and only if it works. If and only if they get results. In my counseling practice, I am results driven. If I'm not getting results, I'll even refund your money, because I don't want you wasting money if I'm not getting the results that you want. So that's why I'm very clear up front. What do you want to see happen? And then we'll do some of that, and then I'll take you where I know you need to go anyway. But yeah, how do I feel about paid peer-to-peer coaches? I'm all in favor of it. In fact, one of the types of therapy that I was trained in, or counseling that I was trained in, is what's called reevaluative counseling or co-counseling. And it's done on a peer-to-peer basis. I was also, I would teach teenagers peer counseling. And I'm a fan of that. As long as they have some idea of, to take themselves out of the equation, especially at that age when you're working with a peer and knowing what you're looking for, and how to ask questions, and how to ask deep questions, and how to ask questions that elicit an opening in your person you're with. I'm all in favor of it. If it gets results, that's all I fucking care. All right. Miss A. Misa PRK says, how do you truly get to know yourself? Simple. And I talk about this in my book that has become a bestseller. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. I talk about it in the book. The path to discovering who you are requires discovering who you're not. And what that means is, if you want to discover who you are, you got to try all the things. You just got to step up to the fucking buffet of life and start tasting and sampling, and be willing to spit out and quit that which isn't you, that which doesn't feel right, that which does not hold your attention. If it doesn't hold your attention, let it go. Let it go now. Let it go when you know it doesn't. Not just, I'm having a shitty week, but when you know this isn't your path. And the more you do that, you're going to glean. The gleaners are the ones who, after the harvest, go out and they would pick the bits and pieces of the wheat or the vegetables or whatever that got left behind by the harvesters. And gleaning, in other words, you're finding those leftover pieces. What we do with the experience is, even when we walk away from something that doesn't hold our attention, doesn't connect with us at the soul level, is we can still glean wisdom from it. Well, what did that teach me about myself? How is that the best thing that could have happened for me, even though it's not my long-term passion? What did it teach me about myself? So I'm constantly gleaning from the not me's, and I am constructing more and more, bit by bit, the real me. And furthermore, to answer this question, how do you truly get to know yourself? You have to get out of you all of the messages encouraging you to not be you, all of the conditioning that got put into you, telling you you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not wantable. All of those messages, which again is what both of my books are for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup and Badass Wisdom. They're both for this, to help you get down into who you authentically are by determining those messages that have told you that who you really are doesn't matter, or you exist to meet my needs. And the more you identify those and get those out, the more your authentic self will effortlessly bubble up. All right, next question. Oh, here we go. This is Ayla, and I hope I got that pronunciation right. How do I get my teenager to understand my apologies from angry emotions are true and deeply sincere? Okay, that's a great question. In other words, how it sounds like your teenager doesn't really believe that you're sincere in your apologies, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. It sounds like to me, they don't believe you're sincere. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, okay? Just, I'm giving it to you straight. You asked a straight question, I'm going to give you a straight answer because they don't see the change. They don't believe it. It's just words at this point, in all likelihood. There might be another reason, but if I were to speculate, that's the reason. And so that's why so many people who have, particularly people who have been in abusive situations, and I'm not saying you're abusing your son or your child. I'm drawing a different story, but I'm showing a parallel. People who have been abused, and then the abuse cycle where the person who does the abusing then comes back and apologizes and, oh, I'll never do it again. And then a day, a week, a month later, they're right back in it. That's why the person who has been abused and lived through that abuse cycle as the victim gets tired of the apologies and says, an apology is like an intent. It's a promise, but it's not a reality until you actually change. It's the follow through. And so what has to happen is you have to go inside of yourself and determine where your angry emotions are coming from. And you have to begin to find those origins and heal yourself. And your angry emotions are coming from your own past pain, whether of past relationships or from your own childhood. And you have to flush out that pain, and you have to flush out the BS beliefs that you were taught to believe about yourself, because it is that stuff that is getting triggered and is vomiting out onto your child as anger, and it's not changing. So you don't try to change your anger. You don't try to convince them that you're sincere and mean it. Instead, what you do is you go to the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is your own pain that's causing you to keep lashing out in anger. And the more you go to the root of the problem, the more you're creating real solutions rather than just trying to get someone to believe you. Because if someone is getting evidence to the contrary of what your pie hole is saying, they're not going to believe the pie hole. And they shouldn't believe it, right? If I keep doing something, but I apologize, then my apology is just bullshit. All right, next question. Natalie says, well, how does one flush that stuff out? I'm betting you're a little bit new here, and it's great to have you here, Natalie. Those who know me know my answer to this, and you flush it out by simply this. The simplest way is just get a pen and paper. Start writing out how you're feeling. Start writing out your anger. Start writing out the memories that you have that have any sort of emotional charge, like an electrical charge attached to them, that when you think about that memory, you start to feel embarrassed, or you start to feel rage, or you start to feel really blue, or it's those things you don't want to think about. What are the thoughts and memories in your life that you avoid, that you distract yourself from? What are they? You know you have them. We all fucking have them, right? Then you want to know what? That's exactly where your greatest healing is. In those things you're trying to distract from, and those things you're running from, that's where your healing is. You're running from it because it's emotionally charged, which means you are carrying around emotional charges. If you get rid of those charges, using journaling, using counseling, using writing letters that you don't send, just to name a few, and I have far more tools in the book. But the more you do that, the less you're afraid of that memory, because you're decharging it. No longer has the emotional charge. Because the truth is, you don't feel fear of memory. You fear the feeling attached to the memory. Well, if you decharge that feeling, then you will no longer be a memory or be a charged memory. It'll just be a memory, like that hamburger you had yesterday. Okay, I had a hamburger. No emotional anything attached to it. It's just a memory. Well, your charged memories can become hamburger memories if you decharge them. All right, next question. Here we go. I get this one a lot. This is great. Jill, I love your honesty. This is Jill on TikTok. Jill says, Sven, I have your book, but I'm petrified to read it. Help. Yeah, I get that. I get people who put off buying it. I get people who buy it and they let it sit on their bedstand, not because they don't have the time to get to it. It's just they're scared. I have people who read the introduction and they shut it and they don't come back to it for months. Folks, this is the stuff you spent your life running from. That tidal wave of all your feelings, all your emotions, all your pains, all your fears, all the crap you were taught about yourself. All the stuff that causes you to booze, overwork, gamble, cheat, steal, overshop, create chaos around you so that your mind is in mesh in constantly overcoming the chaos. All of those things that you do to distract yourself and to numb yourself from the madness of your life, that's where your healing is, folks. Of course you don't want to fucking go there. Why would you? You've been avoiding it your whole life because it's painful. It's overwhelming. I don't want to go there, but dude, in the words of my all-time favorite author, Joseph Campbell, you guys have heard me say it before, the cave you most fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. He also says, where you stumble, there is your treasure. You have to have the courage to go into that cave. Because deep inside of that cave, there are dragons. And those dragons are the messages you were taught to believe about yourself. Those dragons aren't just the pain that you need to flush out. It's the beliefs you were taught about yourself. Slay those dragons, and then you get the treasure. What's the treasure? All the gold. And what's the gold? Your authentic self. The privilege of a lifetime is to be your authentic self. Again, Joseph Campbell. But you got to find it first, which requires slaying all the feelings that you've been running from. All right. Laura echoes what was just said. She says, I've had his book for almost a year. I've cracked open the first page. I'm scared. I'm not laughing at you. I just hear that all the time. And it's not even my book per se. It's just that my book is going to take you to the stuff you've been running from. But you know what has to happen? You want to know when you will be ready? When the pain of living this way, when the sheer exhaustion gets so great, it's like, fuck it, I'm ready. I don't even care anymore. I want to go in. I want to fix it. I'm not scared anymore. Or you know what? I am scared. I don't give a shit. I got to do this. When the pain of staying this way has gotten so bad that you reach what I talk about in the book, what I call the fuck it point. All right. Sean asked, do you do one-on-one sessions as well? Yes, I do. Go to badasscounseling.com and read the counseling page. Then get the book. There's a hole in my love cup. I require it of all new clients. It's 80% of my counseling method. Reading that book, or at least being halfway through, enables us to move much more quickly in session, thereby saving you money. And then just reach out to my assistant, Kate, who is lovely. Rob has met her. She's lovely. And reach out to my Kate on the contact page.
Mad Men.
We'll get you going. Mad Men.
Call my girl.
My girl. Oh, yeah.
Just horrible.
Reach out to my girl.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got one from YouTube if you'd like.
Yep.
I like this one because it's from Doris, and she says, hello, Rob. That's the first thing she says. So naturally, it caught my eye. But I'm open to this. Please help, Sven. How do I get through to my boyfriend that no matter what he did in the past, it hurts more when he does the same thing over and over again? He's apologized, in quotes here, but it was a 5-cent one when $50 was owed. He's trying, or so he says, but every 4 weeks it all blows up again. Any insight would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that old 5-cent apology for a $50 crime. It's just, it's like saying, oh, I'm sorry that I hurt you, versus enumerating and knowing what precisely you hurt me for. Do you give? And this isn't just you. This is to everyone. Do you give 5-cent apologies for $50 crimes because you don't want to own the fact that you hurt someone, because you don't want to own your shit? Do you try to squeak by with a quick apology, or, okay, but now we need to move forward? Do you do that? Do you wonder why you don't have credibility in some people's eyes? And do you ever wonder why you're doing that? Because you're afraid of your own pain. You're afraid of looking bad. You're afraid of feeling bad, which is a result of your own conditioning from your own past. But I'm not answering the question, am I, Rob? The question is, shed some light on basically why my boyfriend doesn't get it. Is that it?
Yeah, how do I get through to him is what she's asking. And one of our other listeners to the live feed says, yeah, you know what? Maybe you better tell him it's over.
Well, and that's one option, but you wouldn't be trying to get through to him. You're trying to get through to him that he has hurt you and that you're not fully over it and that he keeps doing the same thing. And it's like he keeps picking the scab off the wound.
She says here now, I always own my shit, but I don't want to be with him because he uses it against me.
Oh, yeah. In other words, you can't be vulnerable. You have to live in a state of vigilance, of constantly protecting yourself. And clearly he's not owning his shit. So then the question, and that's fine. And how do you get him to do anything? You've heard me say it before. Change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. And for people who are so entrenched in their own self-righteousness, which is really their own fear of showing their own vulnerability, people who are that entrenched only change, if they're going to change, in response to extreme pain. And usually it's as a result of loss. So the moment you indicate you're heading for the door, he may change his tune, but as you've heard me say before as well, that may be short-lived. And so you may cycle into the relationship, then cycle back out, then cycle in, then cycle out. The real question, I would offer you're asking the wrong question. The real question you need to be asking is not how do you convince him? Because you trying to convince him is you saying, I don't want to leave. I still want this relationship. So you're still holding on to the relationship. It's like if someone, you're holding on to someone's collar and they just keep punching you in the face. And you think, how do I get them to stop punching me in the face? Well, let go of their collar. But you don't want to. I want this person. I just want them to change. And maybe the real challenge that the universe or God or whatever your belief is confronting you with is you have to change. You have to stop allowing someone to treat you this way. And until you do that, nothing's going to change. He has no pain point. He has no incentive to change. Why? Because he still gets you while being an asshole. Why would he change? I don't got to change. Sure, I love you, but if you're not going to force me to change, why would I change, It's just like, I'm not going to change my underwear every day. But if my girlfriend starts saying, Sven, it's been 14 days and you're getting a little stinky, then it's like, okay, now I have some incentive, right? A little crude, but it drove home the point. So ultimately, the question you need to be asking yourself is, why am I so afraid? And you're like, what do you think I'm afraid of, Sven? Well, I think you're afraid to stand up for yourself. Now, either you're afraid of him escalating if you do stand up for yourself, which is in itself an indicator of somebody you can't trust, somebody who's using their power of their loudness or their hurtful words to keep you in a state of suppression. You suppressing yourself. They are oppressing you. You are suppressing yourself. And so you have some fear that is holding you back from standing up for yourself. You have some fear that is keeping you from walking away.
I got the fear here from her now. She says, I might have to get the law involved. He doesn't want to leave the house that I own.
Yeah. And it's not even I may have to. People tend to wait too long to involve the law. And sometimes, and Tracy says here over here on Facebook, sometimes you have to leave, and she puts leave in all capital letters. But the thing is, Tracy, it's her house. She's trying to get someone to leave. And you may have to involve the law. And you know what? Sooner rather than later, one of the biggest mistakes, I have a lot of clients. The last 10 years, my counseling practice has been in Manhattan of New York City. And prior to that, it was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I've had a lot of really, really, really influential and powerful clients over the years. Military leaders, politics, entertainment, finance, especially in the New York City area. And one of the refrains that I hear quite commonly when we're sort of just talking about business, which I know nothing about, but which I'm constantly enjoying learning from these titans, is that one of the biggest mistakes you can make, particularly if you're running a company, among your managers, it's most influential, but it can be even at the bottommost level. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is firing someone too late. Not too soon, too late. Because that poison, that toxicity can infect so much and do so much damage, not to mention affect the bottom line. Well, it's kind of the same way with involving the law. It's kind of the same way with getting out of a relationship. One of the biggest mistakes is waiting too long. Did you know that there was research done, Rob, in the, I want to say it was like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, that it determined that the average couple has been having problems in their relationship, married couple, 6 years before they ever seek counseling.
I've seen articles about that, yes.
It's crazy. 6 years. That it's just like, oh, I can take it. It's no big deal. Or we can sort it out. And you think you're sorting it out. And then it eventually has to reach that point where it's like, fuck, nothing's fucking changing. We need to get help. And then very often it's too late. The analogy I use, and I forget which one of my books I talk about this in, is like every time I hurt your feelings, or every time you hurt my feelings or insult my family or whatever it is, or try to control me or manipulate me or whatever it is, every time I do that to you, it's like I've taken, forgive me, a handful of dog crap and I've thrown it at your feet. And every time you do it to me, it's like you've taken a handful of dog crap or manure and you've thrown it at my feet. And then I do it a little more and you do it a little more. And before you know it, we've got this heap of dog poop between us, so that it doesn't matter, no matter how kind my words are to you, or no matter how big the bouquet of flowers, whether it be in words or actual flowers, I give to you, it doesn't matter, because all you can smell is the dog crap, right? Or no matter how warmly you wrap your arms around me, all I see is the dog crap, right? That accrual over those 6 years or 8 years or 4 years or whatever the amount is for you, the accrual of the garbage in a relationship gets so big that it's hard to see past it. In fact, you can't. And so then the relationship, the counseling then isn't just about fixing what's going on today. It's about removing 2, 4, 6, 26 years of dog crap between two people. And what happens is when that pile gets big enough, eventually you're like, fuck it, I don't even want to deal with it. I give up. It's not worth the effort. So waiting too long is often the biggest mistake. Much more to come right after this short break.
So I was telling a buddy of mine how he seems happier. He told me about the book that changed his life. So I bit. I went to the Badass Counseling website and downloaded There's a Hole in My Love Cup audiobook. I started listening to it on my commute home from work, and holy cow, it was a Louisville slugger to the face. I literally sat in my car in the driveway night after night, listening through to the end of a chapter or doing the journaling exercises. My wife started to see changes. I started to change a lot. My default response stopped always being anger. Now I manage a team of salespeople, and I changed as a leader. I was listening more, not always just reacting. When their numbers started going up seemingly out of nowhere, I knew what the reason was. There's a Hole in My Love Cup is now required listening for any person on my sales team or working for me, and I gladly buy it for them. You gotta listen to this book.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
Hi, people. Good to have you back. I've got a question here from Lucas on Facebook. Lucas asked the question, how do I stop caring about people that don't reciprocate any emotional energy? The way you stop caring is by going inside and determining what is the pain and what is the fear driving the behavior. You don't try to change the giving of the caring. What you try to change or identify is what's the fear driving you to care so much. Now, this is a somewhat common thing, particularly among extreme givers, that fear that keeps me caring and caring and caring what you think. Well, the fear, more often than not, is fear of you not liking me, fear of you thinking negatively of me, right? And so if I don't do everything I can, you might think less of me. You might think little of me, and then you won't like me. So I have to overserve. I have to give so much to everyone so that everyone likes me because I can't bear the thought of anyone disliking me. Well, shit, you don't think that's some fucking hardcore childhood conditioning going on right there? That you were taught that you had to give and give and give and give. And see, that's one of those traits you can even learn in a good home. If mom and dad modeled giving and giving and giving, the child thinks, well, if a little is good, a lot is great. A child thinks, well, that's what we do. But the problem is if you get into friendships, if you get into work relationships, if you get into love relationships as a giver, and you happen to stumble upon someone who's happy to take and take and take it because they're trying to fill their own loved cup, just as you're trying to get yours filled by overgiving, hoping they'll give some in return, they're happy to receive your love, take your love. Well, now you're just going down the fucking rabbit hole. This is a match made in hell. Extreme giver meets an extreme taker. So how do you stop caring about people that don't reciprocate any emotional energy? You dive into where the fuck that fear is coming from. Origins, people. It's not about blame. It's about origins. Where in your past were you taught that you need to keep giving when people aren't giving back? Well, this is someone who clearly doesn't think much of themselves. You were taught that you're not worth much, and so you have to give 10 units for every 1 unit you get back. And it's driven by pain as well. The fear of the pain of someone not liking you, and it's going into those. And again, that's what the book is for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup, literally to walk you through that exact process of identifying origins. I'm telling you, the healing is in the identifying of the origins. Naming the beast is half the problem. Oh, here we go. Conan over on TikTok, and you're next, Rob, so get one ready for me off YouTube. Conan says, whenever I address an issue I have, my wife gets very defensive. What can I do? Presumably, you mean an issue you have with your wife. Whenever you address an issue that you have, my wife gets very defensive. Yeah, what can you do? Well, first of all, run a sort of a speed test on you. Not speed per se, but run a check on you. How am I presenting it? I'm a big believer. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Okay? Is my tone? Am I calm? Am I coming in, with basically the sandwich approach, positive, negative, positive? The positive is, honey, I love you very much. I just want to talk about one thing. And I really appreciate how supportive you normally are. there's one thing I want to look at is, how you tend to, and I'm just going to make something up here. I need you to apologize for that thing, that conflagration that happened between us the other day, that dust up that we had. And again, I'm really grateful for how you stay in these conversations, or that you try and so forth. So you're really monitoring your tone, and you're coming in just as gently as possible. Because if you have someone that gets very defensive, they're going to be set off if you don't. But then the other side of that is, I can't be constantly just about kissing their ass. You still got to come in firm. All right. You got to come in and you got to say, sweetheart, we need to talk about this. All right. And so you say, whenever I address an issue, I have my wife gets very defensive. What can I do? So you don't like her getting defensive. And I'm betting in the fact that you're wondering what you can do after you've checked yourself. But I'm betting that you fear her anger. Maybe she raises her voice. Maybe she hits. Maybe she yells. Maybe she shuts down, gives you the silent treatment. But there is something that she does that doesn't feel good. I'm betting, and I'm also betting then that you're afraid of that. And there's nothing wrong with being afraid of it. It can be scary, right? And so you're wondering what you can do basically to get her to change, or to change you so that she won't be defensive. You're not the problem here. I'm willing to bet. As long as your tone is good and your words are good and you're firm, but you're also kind, as long as you can give those in the affirmative, then the problem in this case is that your wife is, she has a lot of pain inside of her. And so you even dropping one more drop of pain inside her love cup that's already chock full of it, and chock full of negative messages she was taught about herself, one more drop and it just sets off all those firecrackers and sticks of dynamite from all the pain of her past and all the beliefs that she believes about herself. Maybe she believes she's no good and she's a piece of shit. So if you lodge even one complaint, even if it's 100% legitimate, it takes her instantly back into that messaging from her childhood. See, I'm dog shit. See, I'm no good. See? And she gets defensive because that hurts. And it's not that you're hurting her. You're making a very reasonable response and complaint about something that's happening in your relationship that you would like to see change. Unless you're, being a total butthead about it, you have every right to lodge complaints. And so if she's sort of blowing it out of proportion, this has nothing to do with you. And what I would recommend, honestly, in this case is, both of you get into some counseling. And if she's not willing to, well, cripes. At a certain point, you realize somebody's not fucking trying. Somebody's not willing to look at their shit. And then you've got some ugly questions to be asking yourself. Rob, you got one for me over there?
Those are really good words, Sven. I mean, I know better now, but had I heard this 20 years ago, I would have rewound it and listened to it over and over again. Which part? What you were just talking about how you approach these conflicts, about how you don't just come at it negatively.
Yeah.
You sandwich it.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. I've learned that. But
we all learned it the hard way.
I only knew then what I know now. Anyway, here's a question on YouTube.
Before we go to that question on YouTube, one thing that enables us to come in gentler and to come in positive is when I, in my own spare time, before I go to my wife or before you go to your husband or your partner or whatever, that in my own time, I'm flushing out, I'm decharging as much of my inner emotion as possible so that when we get into that situation, I'm calm. Because if I'm pregnant with so much of my own emotion, anger, sadness, depression, rage, anxiety, whatever it is, I'm not going to stay calm and I'm not going to be present. And to have one person who isn't calm is bad enough, but if you have two, well, that's just a full-blown flying shit show. Go ahead, Rob, your turn.
Or as Jerry Seinfeld says in his routine, my wife tells me she doesn't like my tone, and I say, you mean, and that's not it. So here's a question from YouTube. It's from Kay, who says, how do I find my passion and fulfillment when it comes to a career? I feel like I'm stuck in a corner.
Yeah. The way you find your passion in anything in life, passion is another word for authentic self. Purpose, another word for authentic self. Direction, trajectory, all of these, or even your motivation, all of these are fundamentally synonyms for authentic self. How do you find it? By getting out all that isn't you. You have to begin. One of the exercises in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, it happens in about chapter, I want to say 11 or 12. It's the chapter titled Diamonds in Raw Sewage. And it's an exercise you do where you fundamentally list in two different columns your diamonds and your raw sewage. And I give an example of how diamonds and raw sewage work against each other. And what I talk about is the biggest mistake people make in trying to get happy is that they do more things that make them happy. Yes, you heard me correctly. The biggest mistake people make in trying to get happy is they do more things that make them happy. But the bottom line is this. I want you to think about everything in your life that makes you happy, or I prefer a different phrase, that gives you energy. That gives you energy. This work that I'm doing right now, Rob's not getting paid, I'm not getting paid. We do this for free. I do it because I love the work. Rob loves working the mixing board. Why? Because he enjoys it. We're doing this for fun. Casey, creating and crafting all the ideas and the initial idea of this show, it's fun for us, all right? It gives us energy. At the end of 3 shows that we've taped tonight, I'll have energy going home, and I'll just be jazzed, right? Okay. Think of all those things in life. So this is the diamonds and raw sewage. Think of everything in your life that gives you energy. Maybe it's your exercise routine. Maybe it's your work. Maybe it's spending time with your best friend. Maybe it's time alone. Maybe it's whatever the hell it is, listening to whatever your music is. Think of every single one of those as a diamond that you're holding in your hand. All right? In your hands. You've got it cupped in your hands there. Those are your diamonds, the things that give you energy. Now imagine all the things in your life that drain your energy, that bleed you, that bore you, that numb you, that suck the life out of you. All the things that you have to conjure up energy just to do. All of those things that bleed your life energy, those are like pipes of raw sewage dumping onto your head. And by raw sewage, I mean like half-eaten cans of cat food and cigarette butts and poop and raw sewage dumping onto your head. It doesn't, and so back to the original statement. The biggest mistake people make in trying to get happy is they do more things that make them happy. In other words, they try to get more diamonds. Well, shit, I don't care how many diamonds you have cupped in your hands. If you got raw sewage dumping on your head, your eyes are going to be closed, your nose is going to be closed, your mouth is going to be closed, but very soon it's going to be all over you, and you're going to have to open your mouth a little bit to breathe, and then you got raw sewage in your mouth, and before you know it, and you try to open your eyes to look at my diamonds. Oh, life is good. Look at my diamonds. That's kind of what gratitude lists are when your life is shit. Oh, I got a gratitude list. I'm looking through the fat guy underwear or the skinny guy underwear. It's just dirty, however much he weighed, and I got these cigarette butts, and but I can see my diamonds there. Oh, I'm so grateful. No, your life's shit. It's like turn off the raw sewage, man. Okay, so anyway, the point is, eventually all you can see, taste, touch, and smell is the raw sewage, is all the negative energy source, all the things that are sucking the life energy out of you. It doesn't matter how many diamonds, doesn't matter how many things you have in your life that make you happy. If you have raw sewage dumping onto you, those negative energy sources, it's going to suck the fucking life out of you. So the task isn't to add more diamonds just yet. The task is to begin to go up and turn off the valves, close the valves on those pipes dumping raw sewage onto your head. That is to say, it's to begin to get the raw sewage out of your life and out from inside of you. But here's the thing about raw sewage. It doesn't have to be giant like fucking pipes. It can be just a garden hose going drip, 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 drip of raw sewage. And eventually, it's going to drip all over your head, and it's going to get under your nose, and it's going to get a little bit in your mouth and down in your crack and, on your arms and shit, and so that all you can smell is the raw sewage. Now, granted, you'll be able to see your diamonds a bit more, and you'll be able to enjoy them more, those things that give you energy, because there's less of the things, those negative energy sources. But until you fundamentally get rid of all the raw sewage, it doesn't matter how many fucking diamonds you have in your life. It doesn't. Because all you can see, taste, touch, smell is the negative energy sources, and more often than not, the worst ones are inside of you. Therefore, the task to becoming happy is to begin to go inside yourself and outside of yourself and to begin to either reduce or eliminate those things that are sucking the fucking life out of you. And just for the record, I prefer energy and the discussion of things that give you energy rather than this notion of what makes me happy. Because what makes me happy is a head thing. It's up here. Whereas what gives me energy is a more in the body thing. What just feels exuberant, or what brings me a sense of calm. All right? What holds your attention is something that gives you energy. That's how you begin to know who you really are. So if you can't find your purpose, you can't find your passion, it's because you've got so much raw sewage inside of you, to the person who asked that question. And you've got to begin to flush that out. Again, that's what the books are for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup and Badass Wisdom. And if you haven't read either of them, I recommend starting with There's a Hole in My Love Cup. The Badass Wisdom is a 366-day daily meditational, inspirational book that'll kick your ass, but start with Love Cup. All right, next question. We've got time for a few more here. And again, which Sassy Mama follows up with, I don't know what makes me happy. That's the point, Sassy Mama. You don't know what your diamonds are because you've got the raw sewage in there. You've got these bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself. You've got pain from your past, and that has to come out. And then who you are effortlessly grows up from within you. You don't discover it outside of you. It's inside of you. That's why you have to get all that crud inside of you. All right. Hold on, people. Just queuing up the next question. All right. Rob, have you got one? Or
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sven from YouTube. Here's Shannon, who says, my 20-year-old daughter says she won't speak to me if I leave her extreme taker dad. Do I stay or risk losing a relationship with her?
20-year-old daughter, who I presume lives with you?
Looks that way.
Yeah. She will leave you.
She won't speak to me.
Won't speak to you.
If I leave her dad, who she says here is an extreme taker, an
I
ET.
see. I see. So then clearly in this case, you fear your 20-year-old daughter not talking to you. Obviously. So your fear of your daughter's actions is exceeding your care for yourself. So you fear your daughter more than you love yourself and your own needs, emotional needs. And I'm not saying, oh, I need to be king of the world. I don't hear you saying that. You're saying you want respect, you want peace in your home, you want to feel loved, right? But you fear your daughter. In other words, your daughter, as we would say in sports, she owns you. You're her bitch, basically. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but that's really what's happening. And at the root of it is that you feel you're afraid of losing her approval. And that means, and this is really a tenuous position. We've all been there, so I'm not dogging you, all right? We've all been there. But the problem in parenting where we fail to do what needs to be done is when we need our children to like us. And it sounds like that's what's going on here. Your daughter says she won't talk to you. Well, the fact that she's even playing that card says that she knows that card has power over you, which means somewhere in her, she knows. She knows that she owns you. She knows what it takes to make you cower. So she's running the house. And what's that old phrase? The inmates are running the asylum. A 20-year-old child does not know what is best in adult relationships yet. And you need to heal yourself. The mere fact that you're, I mean, this is really interesting. I guess it really doesn't come as a surprise that you're fearful of leaving an extreme taker because you fear your daughter. In other words, in two relationships, your feelings don't matter. And at some point, you have to matter enough that you're willing to risk your child not liking you or not talking to you. And the truth is, let me ask you, did you ever go through that phase? And anybody who's a parent, raise your hand if you went through this phase with your kid where they're shouting at you, I hate you, slamming doors, stomping feet. Do you ever go through that? Come on. We've all been there, right? If you haven't been through that phase where your child hates you, well, shoot. There's a good chance you ain't doing the hard decisions. And so you've got to be willing to do that and trust that there are decisions that she doesn't need to know she doesn't need to understand, and she certainly doesn't get to control the situation. You have to trust that your daughter loves you and that one day she will understand. And maybe it'll be when she's 35 or whatever, but you have to begin to live for you so that you're no longer living in fear. Rob?
Follow up, she says, oh yeah, 100% spot on, but am I abandoning her if I need to financially move 8 hours away?
How would you be abandoning her? Wouldn't she be going with you? I don't understand. Yeah,
maybe she's in a local college or something.
That could be, but it's just like, sometimes in life, unfortunately.
She says no.
No what?
No, I guess she's not living with her.
Oh, well, sometimes in life, unfortunately, you got to do what you got to do. And then you're going to have to get serious about your commutes to see your daughter. But isn't it fascinating that, listen to what happened. Wait, she says, did she just say that I fear abandoning her if I move 8 hours away?
Yep.
But your daughter said she's not going to talk to you anyway, so she can't simultaneously say, you're abandoning me. Oh, fuck you, kid. Now, you wouldn't say fuck you, kid, but you're thinking inside yourself, fuck you, kid. You said you wouldn't even talk to me anyway. All right? Which is it going to be? You want to have me in your life? You don't want me in your life? Listen, I got to do this for me. I'm going to have a relationship with my daughter. Now, if you don't want a relationship with me, that's fine. You're entitled to have your boundaries, but I'm going to be deliberate about making that 8-hour trek. I'm going to be deliberate about being involved in your life and so on and so forth. And the truth is, around 20 years old, when my son was 20, cripes, he was already 2 or 3 years into college on the other side of the country, right? When my daughter was 20 years old, no, when she was about 18, 19 years old, she was in Africa working in orphanages in Uganda and Tanzania. All right, there's nothing wrong with a natural separation. And it sounds like it could do you just as much good as it could probably do her. And it would release you from your daughter's control, which is its own tragedy, just that one sentence. All right, next question. What are your thoughts on closure of a past lover that has moved on but still responds to you? Thoughts on closure of a past lover that has moved on. Lover has moved on but still responds to you. The word respond means you're initiating the discourse and they are responding. They are reacting. They are volleying the ball back. It means you're initiating. Now, I may be wrong. Is that not accurate, Mary Beth? And therefore, if you're the one initiating the conversation and they are responding to you, why are you initiating conversation? Why are you initiating reaching out? And the mere fact that you say, what are your thoughts on closure, says that you don't have it. Otherwise, why would closure even be an issue? And the fact that you don't have closure and you are reaching out to this person says, guess what? You still want something. And I'm willing to bet you want them back, right? And they are responding, right? They are responding, and it's fucking with your head. Well, it's almost as though you can't let go unless they totally shut you down out of their life. In other words, you're holding on, and you're probably thinking, why do they keep stringing me along? They're not stringing you along. You're stringing yourself along because you can't bear to let go. You keep holding on, and there's some fear. You guys have heard me say it a million times. If you're ever trying to figure out why someone is doing something that doesn't make sense, always ask yourself the question, what's the primary fear driving the behavior? Then speculate the answers, write them out on paper, and choose the biggest, hairiest, scariest one. Whatever that fear is, that's why they're doing it. You are holding on. If I've read it right, and you are still reaching out to them, and they keep responding, you're reaching out to them, then you're doing it because you still want something. But Mary Beth says, no, I just want to tell him why he meant so much to me and how he fits into my story, I guess. Why would you want to tell him that? There's nothing wrong with that, Mary Beth. If you want to tell him that, tell him that. Write him a letter. Call. I mean, for all these times he's been responding, you'd think you would have told him that by now. I mean, why haven't you? If that's all, you say, no, I just, like, this is just one thing. Well, then do it. Do it and get on with your life. No, I think you want to tell him what he meant to you. I'm willing to bet, and I could be wrong, Mary Beth. You can tell me to go fuck a duck. I don't care. I won't be offended. But my hunch, having been there myself more than once, and having been there with many clients, is that you want to tell them all those things because you want them back. But if I'll take you at face value. No, I just want to tell him why he meant so much to me and how he fits in my life story. Why do you want to tell him that? Why? And there's nothing wrong with it. Again, if you want to do it, do it. Fuck it. Go for it. Tits up. God bless you. But why? Why? What is the eventuality you hope will come as a result of it? Why do you want him to know that? And again, I'm just sort of spitballing it here, but I'm willing to bet you want something from him. Perhaps it's him saying, and you meant so much to me, and you were so important to me. Maybe it's some sort of validation of your worth. Maybe you do want him back. Maybe, but there's something you are still wanting from him. Otherwise, there would be no need to tell him why he fit and how he fit into your life story. The fact that you want to say that to him says you're wanting something. And if you can name that, then you're on the road to closure. And because you said you want closure, and you won't have closure until you're no longer reaching out to him. So tell him what you want to or just tell him what you want to fucking tell him and move on with your life. Rob, you want to say something?
Sometimes when a lot of time goes by, then it works out pretty well. Like in my case, after 40 years, I got in touch with my old college girlfriend, and she was shocked, and we got together for a few minutes. I saw her and her husband, and I said, I just want you to know that I loved you so much. We were together 4 years. I loved having a girlfriend. Obviously, it wasn't right. It didn't work out. But I just wanted you to know how much I cared for you, how much I love you. So I felt the same way.
Why did you want to tell her?
It was a bit of closure for me. I mean, it's certainly after a very, very long time. And I had some pain saying to myself, why didn't this work? You know, what did I make a mistake? A lot of regret. And
so if you were wanting something from this college sweetheart, so that would have been about, what, 55 years ago?
A long time. Yeah.
Okay.
Just call it a long time.
We'll call it 20.
Call it decades.
Anyway, what do you think it was that you were really kind of wanting from her by telling her how important she was and how in love you were?
I thought maybe it was unsaid. Maybe I was oblivious back then. I feel like I know so much more about myself now. And just in case she wondered, what now do I feel? I want her to know that. I mean, you get to a certain age and you look back on these things and it helps. And in fact, afterwards, I got a text message from her. And she said, I got a lot of mileage out of our meeting, and it was really great. So, I think it was good for both of us.
Fair enough.
But you got to let decades go by is what I'm saying.
Fair enough. But technically, Rob, did you guys catch that?
What's that?
Rob didn't answer the question.
Yeah, of course not. I love to deflect.
Okay.
Well, what didn't I answer?
What if there were something that you were wanting by going to this former college girlfriend, and telling her these profound feelings you had for them? If you were wanting something, what might it have been? What's in all likelihood, what was it you were wanting?
I certainly wasn't wanting to get back together with her.
No, of course not. But let me ask you, what was it you were wanting?
I think that back then I was really not very well equipped to express my feelings.
And so what were you wanting
concerned
now?
That I didn't express it, and I just wanted her to know how much she meant to me back then if I hadn't made it clear. And the fact that she had a scrapbook with everything I ever wrote to her, every card I sent to her, means I guess she got the message. But for me, it was, well, good. I'm glad to see this now. It was good for my psyche.
Was it in part driven, perhaps, by fear that you may have hurt her or minimized her?
No, it was more like my clear recollection is she decided to leave me, although then we saw each other once or twice after that, but it was clear there was nothing there. But I just had this empty feeling. I never really told her properly, and I just wanted to do that. And I did.
What you got out of it was maybe a clean conscience.
Yeah, and if there was any pain left over from that, it was gone.
Oh, that's nice. So you wanted, all right, I like that. All right. Well, that could have been our one last question.
Thanks for indulging me on that.
No, this is your show. I am here to do whatever you want.
Right.
So it's true, Rob.
By the way, Shannon wrote in afterward to answer the question about her and her daughter. She says, thank you so much. A separation would be so good. She's actually acting a lot more like her dad now. And thank you again.
Well, you know what? And that really is it, isn't it? You're afraid of confronting the dad, afraid of confronting her. And so she saw an opportunity. She's mirroring his behaviors, and you are now a low person at the totem pole. And so you stepping out and honoring yourself is the best thing that you could do for yourself. Give yourself the gift, because fundamentally what you are saying is no. And inside of the word no is the word I, and it's I matter. All right. Robert Threnhauser over on Facebook says, Sven, I wanted forgiveness and to recognize the women I broke things off with were better than I treated them. Well, if you went back to them, you wouldn't have done it to recognize that the women were better than you treated them. It means you would have wanted them to know that they were better than you treated them, and you were wanting forgiveness. Yeah, and that's an honest statement. And very often when we go into those situations where you are wanting something from someone, you have to be willing to not get it. I talk about this with, going to your parent, for those people who want to confront their parents for stuff they did in the past. If you're doing it for you because you need to say it, that's great. If you're doing it because you want something in return, you need to assume you're not going to get it. Why? Because you may not get it. And then what are you going to do? Then you're going to be disappointed. Oh, that was a fucking waste. Rather, if you want to go to them because I just need to say it because my truth needs to be spoken. Now that's that you're going to have success with because you're going to get to say it. But as long as you're wanting, understand this, listen to me on this one, people. As long as you are wanting something from someone, they have power over you. They have the power to make you miserable. It's like if I have a $20 bill in my hands and I say to little Billy, who's 8 years old, Billy, I will give you this $20 bill. I swear to you, I will give it to you. All you have to do is reach it. Now I'm 6'4". If I put my hand way above my head, that's at about, 8 feet. Good luck, Billy. Now Billy will get a ladder. He'll try to grab it, but I'll just step away from the ladder. Or he'll try to climb up me and I'll shake him off. Or he'll jump off his garage roof and try to get it, but I'll dodge out of the way so that he can't get it. And eventually, Billy's going to go crying home to his mommy because Sven's such a prick and won't give me the $20 bill. And I'll say, listen, Billy, we had an agreement. You get it, but you have to get it. Okay. So in other words, I have something Billy wants, and Billy is fucking miserable and crying home to his mommy because Sven's a prick. No, it's that Sven has something you want. And once you no longer want that $20 bill, you can go back to being happy. And then the truth is, by tomorrow, something else will distract them, SpongeBob or, cute little redheaded girl who lives down the street or whatever it is will distract him, and he will no longer want the $20 bill, and he can go back to being happy. It's the same way with the parent, the lover, the friend, the boss. When you are wanting something, they have the power to make you miserable by not giving it to you. Thereby, they fundamentally have the power to keep you in a state of submission. And if you want to heal from that situation, you have to identify for yourself what it is you're wanting from them. And then you have to begin to ask yourself, what is it I'm most afraid of if I never get that? What am I most afraid of if I were to walk away from that? Why is it I want it so badly from this particular person? And at what point am I so fucking miserable that I'm done wanting that stupid $20 bill that is their love? Anything else, Rob?
This is an interesting question. If we can end on this thing, it's good.
Yeah.
This is from Teddy on YouTube.
Hi, Teddy.
Teddy says, I've never been in a relationship and I'm 25 years old. I feel like I'm stunted. How do you think someone like me, especially as a male, can enter the dating space?
Well, the mere fact you're asking that question says you want to enter the dating space. And if you've never had a relationship, it's actually a bit more common than you may think, Teddy. I know you may feel like you're, awkward, or maybe you think you're unlovable or whatever. But there are plenty of people out in the dating world of all ages. And raise your hand if you've been here, okay? Give Teddy a little love. Teddy's up on YouTube. But is there anybody who's ever dated who hasn't felt awkward? Who hasn't at times felt unworthy? Who hasn't at times, multiple times? I went through this for years and years. That woman's out of my league. Oh my God, why even bother approaching her? It's just like, she's so far out of my league. My girlfriend and I now, we kid around. And she says, I wish we would have met 20 years ago. I said, I'm glad we didn't. She's like, well, why is that, honey? I said, I would have never approached you. You're so fucking intimidating. It's this powerful, creative, smart, beautiful, sensationally beautiful woman. It's like, no way would I have ever done that. So awkward and insecure, that's just part of life, but especially in this realm of the most intimate of relationships, or trying to develop, cultivate, or even begin an intimate relationship. And I got a ton of people, Holly, saying, awkward is my middle name. And Holly says, me. And all these people. Okay,
everybody's saying, I am Teddy right now.
I am Teddy. That's it. And so, Teddy, to answer your question, how do you start? If you want my honest to God answer, on this one, I'm a believer in online dating. I met my present girlfriend. We've been together over 10 years online. We're on opposite sides of the country. I'm a believer in that. And I'm also a believer in putting out there more of who you are rather than less of who you are. In other words, saying, listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm, somewhat insecure and I haven't dated before. Boy, you put that out there. That's like catnip. That's catnip. I don't know, Teddy, if you're interested in women or if you're interested in men or if you're interested in non-binaries, whatever you're interested in. But for many people, somebody being that vulnerable is a very attractive feature. You're having the courage to be honest. But ultimately, that insecurity that you're feeling, Teddy, and also potentially the reason you haven't had relationships up till now is because you've got some voices inside of you. I'm willing to bet, and I could be wrong, I'm willing to bet, that are saying you're not worthy, you're not lovable. And so you think, no one's going to like me, or I'm no good. And if you really want to supercharge sort of your life, is to go in, and that, again, that's what I've written my book for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup and Badass Wisdom, so that you can begin to identify where those messages have come from. And you can begin to root them out. And then you walk in less and less awkward, less and less insecure. But you begin by putting a few toes in the water. And that's one of the beautiful things, I believe, of online dating, is you can put yourself out there and you can go at your own speed, right? But ultimately, you want to know the best thing for a love life. You want to know the best thing for cultivating a beginning of relationships? Do nothing other than be your authentic self. I had a client, I want to say about 20 years ago, and she was a very significant introvert. and books. She loved to read, and she spent a lot of her time at home alone. And she said, Sven, I so want to meet someone, but I don't like going to the bars, and I don't like going out and be social and so on and so forth. I said, then don't. What gives you energy in your life? She says, well, really just reading. I love reading, and I like animals, so I go to the zoo sometimes. And I volunteer at the rescue shelter. I said, just do that. Just read, go to the zoo, and volunteer at the rescue shelter. If those are the things that bring you the greatest happiness, just do that, as well as work. Just do that. She says, but shouldn't I get out there and meet people? I said, no. You should be whatever gives you energy, and trust that fates are conspiring, that your love is barreling down on you like a freight train. Well, guess what happened to her? I'll just call her Becky. Guess what happened to Becky? She was in her book club, and a friend of hers in the book club was talking afterwards, and Becky's like complaining she's having to do the dishes by hand because her dishwasher broke down. Well, you think you know where the story's going? It's not. Her friend had a brother who came over and fixed the dishwasher. And he liked books too, and they're chatting. No, they didn't start dating. But as it turns out, he had a friend who, whatever the spark of interest was, that he thought, you know what, Becky, can I introduce you to my friend? And he did. And last I heard, he and Becky had been dating for several years because she checked in with me or I bumped into her or something like that. And that was, 20 years ago. Who knows where Becky is now? But the point is, just be you. But then you have to let go of wanting love on your time. And just trust that it will happen. Trust the muses. Trust the fates. All right, Rob, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Give me an iced tea and I spill my guts.
I don't get it.
I was very open with you earlier.
Yes. How did I give you an iced tea, though?
Well, I'm just saying that's how easily I am. And
it doesn't even require a whiskey to sort of lube you up.
Yeah, you got it.
Wow, that was fucking good, man. I'm slow on the uptake today. Rob is always the best, always quicker than anyone. Rob, I have a final question for you tonight.
Certainly.
Your favorite 70s song?
My favorite there's so many. Oh, my.
Okay, let's do this. Favorite from 1970 to 1975.
Early 70s.
Early 70s. So we're still in Vietnam.
Yeah.
We still got Nixon.
I got Make It With You by Bread.
Really?
Yes, because that first album came out. I'm working at the radio station. Beautifully produced stereo by Bruce Botnick, the engineer. And we were so impressed. And that whole album was great. But Make It With You was not on the album. And then when the single came out, we said, okay, we can see where they're going.
So the single was Make It With You, but it wasn't on the album?
It was on their second album.
And is that the one that...
it was their first hit, but it came from the second album.
Did they sing Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old...
That was Tony Orlando
and Dawn. Orlando and Dawn.
Was not my favorite record of the 1970s.
No, Bread had such great slow songs, man. I love that. Love that. I don't know why my brain went to Yellow Ribbon, which is actually a true story from what I understand. Well, so many people weighing in. Anything by Barry White. Magic Man by Heart. All right, guys. This has been fantastic. Casey is rolling her eyes at me. Not at you, Rob, at me. And this has been great. This was a really good one. I felt like we really had some fascinating questions across a breadth of topics. And I want to thank you guys for that. For your wonderful questions and for supporting Teddy. Teddy, you can do it, buddy. You got it. Just take your time. Just be you. You'll be fine. Then you're going to stumble. You're going to fall. Pick yourself back up and do your journaling, flush out your feelings, and just get after it. All right, guys. On behalf of Casey, on behalf of Rob the Rocket, wherever you are tuning in from, I say to you, on behalf of the Badass Counseling Show, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.